Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar panel today. We're just waiting for everyone to join, so we'll be starting in a few minutes. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll maybe just give it one more minute and let everybody join in and then we'll get started. Okay, hi everyone and welcome to our Women in Business panel webinar this morning. Today we're going to be having a discussion about all of the challenges that face women in business, and a recent survey from Business Gateway looked at the landscape for female-led entrepreneurs and businesses in Scotland. And on a positive note, that confidence in business is high, so confidence in continuity remains high, especially in this economic climate, which is a reassuring note, but obviously some challenges do still exist for women in business. So today we're going to be discussing the challenges that currently face female-owned businesses in Scotland, and we're going to be chatting about tips to build confidence, to celebrate success, and to address barriers and explore the importance of community. So I'm Sarah Johnson, I'm co-founder of Indigo, and I'm joined this morning by Lynne Kennedy, MBE, and Fiona McArthur. So before we do our proper introductions, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So just to let everyone who's here know that the session is going to be recorded and then it'll be made available to you all afterwards. You've all been placed on mute to just avoid any background noise. And please submit questions and just pop them in the chat box function and we'll address them during the session. So, as I said, we're joined today by Lynne Kennedy of Business Women Connections and Fiona McArthur, who's owner of Fetcha chocolates. So I'm going to pass over to you guys to let us know a little bit more about yourselves. Lynne, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name's Lynne Kennedy. I am founder of Business Women Connections. It's a franchise opportunity supporting women in business. It's really a platform built of trust where women is a go-to place for making connections and growing your business. So welcome.
Perfect. And Fiona?
I have Fetcha chocolate, so it's well, woman-owned. And it's all vegan and gluten-free and everything as well. And we recently had the distinction of being chosen to be in the Oscars goodie bags this year, so that's quite exciting.
Which is amazing, so exciting. And just to let everyone know, I'm Sarah Johnson, so I'm director of Indigo, and we're a data-led marketing consultancy based in Edinburgh, and we help clients gain insight from industry and audience and marketing data to get better results from their marketing efforts and their content. So we've got quite a lot to get through this morning and quite a lot of discussion points that I know that we're all super keen to hear about. So to get us started, do you think that Scotland's a good place to be a woman in business? Lynne, let's go to you first.
I would say yes, and the reason I'm saying yes is because I started Business Women Scotland 18 years ago, and when I started out in business there wasn't really a platform for women in business or an awful lot of support. And Business Gateway was there and I did have some support with them as well. But really out with that, there wasn't too much to go to. Then from joining Scottish Government as the women in the Women Advisors capacity, I realised that there was the opportunity there to develop further, to give women a platform, to have support and have events and organisations as well. But then when we started looking at navigating further south, so we've got first franchise launching in Manchester, we realised there's actually not an awful lot of support if you actually look further south of the border. They have their normal chamber, BNI, Federation of Small Businesses, but apart from that, there's no business gateways, there's no other platforms really that you can go to. So it's quite interesting.
There's more support for women in Scotland than there are south of the border just now, or?
Definitely. So I think Scotland is a very good place to start a business. There's definitely an awful lot more support.
That's really encouraging. Fiona, have you found that in starting up your business?
Yeah, I haven't come across any kind of roadblocks in terms of that at all. So yeah, no, I definitely would say I haven't used a lot of extra business support, so I haven't really had to look into it yet. But yeah, no, it's definitely, I haven't had any problems. So I would say it's a great place.
No, I would agree. I do think Scotland is. I mean, I think there's obviously challenges that face women in business everywhere, but I think Scotland does have quite. I think since the Pathways report, the Scottish Government have been committed to try and kind of help women overcome some of those challenges. I know I think there's a lot to be done still, but I do think there's quite a lot of steps that have been put into place. So I do think Scotland is a great place for us all to kind of come together and to start our businesses. And this kind of is leading on. So do you think that women in business face similar challenges in Scotland as they do in the UK and potentially Europe and overseas? Or do you think there's anything kind of specific, or do you feel like we face the same kind of challenges across the board?
I think there's always one challenge for any woman in business, and I don't think it's a geographical thing. I think it's also just the confidence part that women lack. Mm-hmm. And I think that can be, you could live anywhere in the world, but it's just actually gaining more confidence. How do you get more confidence? And that's one thing I think is something that we need to support further for women in business, because the more people I speak to at different levels in business, it's always the same thing. It's an imposter syndrome or it's confidence. So I don't think Scotland's any different from any other country in the world.
No,
yeah,
I would
agree with.
And would you say imposter syndrome is still a prevalent issue for women? Fiona, have you ever suffered from imposter syndrome, or have you kind of come across it, or is that just not a part of you? Like, do you think it's still a prevalent issue, or?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I have imposter syndrome doing this webinar. Like, I feel like I am a woman in business, but I feel so not like that at the same time, and I feel like I'm sort of just faking it all the time. So yeah, no, I would say it's definitely something that we have to kind of fight. You have to kind of force yourself to just do it whether you've got it or not, but yeah, just keep going.
And how do you overcome it? Have you got any kind of set ways, or do you just kind of feel the fear and do it anyway?
A bit of both. So actually, it wasn't too big of a problem until just last month, February kind of time, when I started getting, live radio interviews at 6 in the morning and things. I'd never had any of this stuff before, and I thought, I am not qualified to be doing this kind of thing. So yeah, I go for a walk, or try and like get away from the business, even if it's just for like 5 or 10 minutes, just do something not related to the business and kind of recenter myself and be like, you can do this, you've made it this far, you can keep going, just kind of remind myself why I'm doing the business and why I'm here, and just sort of go from there.
That's good. Have you felt your confidence has improved after the kind of the Oscars boom, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm in talks with some pretty big wholesale people and some TV shows and stuff that are asking if I want to come on. And yeah, before January this year, I would have been like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. And now I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Like, you kind of just push yourself, and then you get into the swing of it. So.
Lynne, do you feel like imposter syndrome is something that you see with the women in your network? And
No, absolutely. It's at all different ages as well, and it's sometimes it's quite surprising because there's women that are top end of their career, maybe late 50s, and they talk about the imposter syndrome as well. And it's a funny thing because and there's also women that have come out of careers that want to set up new businesses, and they just don't have the confidence about pressing the button. And I'll say, what's holding you back? And it's just saying, well, what if it fails? And I say, well, what if it flies as well, which it will do. So it's also having the belief in yourself and just surrounding yourself with people that believe in you as well. But the biggest fan and the biggest supporter is going to be yourself. And it's just giving positive affirmations. That's really the best way forward.
I know it is. I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a specific women's issue or if it is a people issue and a confidence issue. But I do know that like imposter syndrome is a challenge for myself as well. It's just one of those things, and I suppose it's always I try and kind of put it in perspective for myself to say like a fear or failure is normal, and it can either hold you back and prevent you from taking the steps to ever start a business or to push for growth or to kind of go out of your comfort zone, but it can also be a strength. So I think it's also trying to think that it comes from a good place in terms of it's trying to keep you safe, and it's maybe making you think about the next steps that you need to take. And so I always try and think of it in a way to try and focus that into something more productive and think, well, what steps do I need to take? What do I need to focus my efforts on to succeed? What are the risks that if we take, and just help me plan properly? But it can just sometimes get a little bit too much. But I read this amazing article once, and I can't off the top of my head remember who actually wrote it, but somebody had named their kind of critical inner voice and their fear of failure Brenda. And so it had a name, it was Brenda. And so after the whole self-loathing, you'd say, okay, thanks, Brenda. Now just get back in your box. And it's just I found it quite encouraging to think maybe Brenda's there to try and care for us all, but she just needs to go back in her box now. You've heard what she has to say. Maybe we'll plan for something about that, but let's put Brenda back in her box. So I do always try and tell Brenda to pipe a little bit.
It's also about think about how you feel when you actually do achieve something that you've always wanted to. It makes you feel great. So if you can actually get past that first hurdle, it's like the building bricks. Then you go on to the next part, and there'll always be another hurdle or something that you'll have self-doubt with. But as you say, if you give the imposter syndrome a name or something like that, then you go, right, then you're actually dealing with it and you can make it a bit of fun. So it's a bit of a challenge.
No, I think it is. And it's, I think it's just putting it all in perspective. I'm just thinking, did you guys have any were you given any inspirational advice before starting out? Fiona?
Yeah, I guess just don't listen to other people, like believe in your own vision, and everything else is just kind of noise. That's kind of what I remind myself quite often, because when I very first started, I had quite a few people would come up to me and be like, I hate your packaging, you should change it, or your name is stupid, or things like that. And I thought, well, or the whole business is stupid, like, because veganism can be so divisive, a lot of people would be like, why are you doing this? That's ridiculous. And I kind of, you just have to kind of block out the other people. And if you think it's a good idea, it's your business. So just kind of focus on that, and don't pay too much attention to other people's opinions, because it's your own opinion that's the most important.
I think that's such a good point. Lynne, did you receive any inspirational advice that have that stuck with you?
Yes, there was a couple I used to work with when I started out. So it was magazines I started with. It was Homes Interior Scotland, and then we launched our own interiors magazine. And I always remember it was the first thing she'd said to me was, just hold your nerve. And it's always stuck with me, because there's times when running a business isn't a straight run up a hill. It's like a hockey stick, isn't it? You have the dips and you have the highs and you have the lows. But I think the one key thing I would always say, whatever, 20 years now in business for myself, that surround yourself with good people, and surround yourself with people that make you feel good and positive, and also build a really good team, and build the team that complements your skills, not build a team with, that it's kind of mirroring what you've got. It's like your weaknesses, so you build your team with that as well. And I think these were the key things that I've taken away from when I'd set up. And I really still think today that's probably what I still say to people: hold your nerve and build your good team, and surround yourself with good people.
That is, yeah, I mean, you do need to build that team, don't you? Because you can't do everything. Once you get, I know at the start you do everything, and then you can't, and then you need the people that plug the gaps that you have. I work with my co-founder really closely, and we kind of, we're that jigsaw fit for each other. So what one of us lacks, the other one has, and it's quite important to tackle that together. I was trying to think if I had any inspirational advice that has stuck with me, and mine, I think, is the more kind of practical advice to try and get you to where you want to be. And the two things that have stuck with me most was, I remember I did a women in leadership program years ago, just after my second child was born, and it was great. We got to go around and meet so many women in our industry and women in business who'd started up their own agencies or their own companies, and all of them had that one thing in similar, and they all kind of at one point said, what's the worst that's going to happen? So when you're faced with a big challenge, or when you're nervous about something, it is thinking, well, what's the worst that's going to happen if I do whatever it is that I fear? What's the worst that could happen? And that helps me quite a lot, because it puts anything in perspective. And then it's, would a man worry about this? Would a man worry about this? So if ever I'm feeling a little bit like, oh, should I rewrite this, or would a man worry about this? So like, would my husband be stressing about this? And I found that quite interesting, because I do have a tendency to overthink, and those two bits kind of helped kind of keep me going forward and not overthinking things. So mine wasn't necessarily inspirational, but more kind of practical for getting over any.
Oh, sorry, I really love that. Would a man worry about this? I think I'm going to mentally save that and use it from now on.
It's quite funny, isn't it? But it is, would a man worry about this? We often have a laugh at work when I'm working with my co-founder. It is but would a man worry about whatever specific thing this is? And usually the answer is no, not really. They probably wouldn't think twice.
Yeah,
but,
I think our friends, males are much more, they're quite happy to take risk, whereas females are the more practical side and try and work out, well, what about the house, or what if you've got children, or various things, whereas men are much more risk averse.
I know, I think it's, for me, yeah, it puts it all in perspective. Then once you kind of answer those, then you can kind of feel free to actually focus on what needs done. And so again, I think it's putting Brenda back in her box and thinking, right, okay, where are we going to do this? Thinking about women in business, I know that Business Gateway's most recent survey found that almost 60% of female business operators are confident in the success of their business in the next 3 years. I'd be interested to know what you guys think about that. How do you feel about like kind of business over the next 3 years? Fiona, can we go to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good that the number's that high. 60% is actually higher than I would have expected. But I think even if it was 90%, I would be like, it should be higher. But it's really good. I must admit, most of the women I know in business are all very confident in the health of it and, you know, the longevity, which is great, because it's quite scary just now. I mean, I was looking at, personally for my own business, the price of cocoa has gone up 430% in the last 4 months. So it is there are quite a few like scary things coming out of climate change and the economic climate, and think if I have to put my prices up, everyone else is skint. Are folk going to worry about paying for things? Like, yeah, it is quite scary. But yeah, I think as long as you believe in your own business, I think, you know, I think that makes it easier. It takes a bit of the weight off. You're not worrying about whether you should be doing it or not. I think it's good that so many people are so confident.
Yeah. Lynne?
Yeah, we've just launched, it's quite interesting, we've just launched our Futures group. So we're looking at Business Women Connections Futures. We've called it BWC Futures, and it's what the future generation, their aspirations, what they're looking for, where do they see themselves in the future. They're looking to set up businesses. So we're working with this young girl who's 18, very inspirational. She's got her own social media marketing business, and she's at university trying to keep her parents happy. She went to Business Gate. She went to Prince's Trust, but she was too young to join the programme. So now that she's 18, she's out on her own. So she's going to be heading up our programmes. And I'm just really interested to hear her voice and what she thinks of how things will be in the future, because very aware that we don't want to bring in speakers and various things talking at 18-year-olds and 6 years, which we're going to bring in as well, instead of letting them have a platform. But their viewpoint is very much different from where we are. So I'm just taking their lead now, because we've been in business now for quite a long time. I feel I'm one of the old school, so it's now giving something back. But she is very confident, and she's very excited about her career and already thinking about the next steps. In fact, I laughed because she's got 5 freelancers that work with her. And she said, the one thing I really struggle with, Lynne, is my tax return. And I said, at 18, I hardly knew what I was doing. I was at art school at 18. So I'm quite confident about the next generation as well. So that's where I'm getting my inspiration from.
That's really interesting, because I suppose there's so much in the press about, because the press obviously love a generational battle, and it's always kind of built up as one generation pitted against the next. But I have seen quite a few headlines about how kind of a lot of the younger generation aren't very excited about their future, which I'm not entirely convinced really is the case. So it's really encouraging to hear that when we've worked with students or kind of pull together any studies on Gen Z, there is quite a strong entrepreneurial streak, I think, in the kind of the youngest generation to try and go out and do things on their own. So that's really encouraging.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about it, but I think it's just, again, they laugh when I say, but we didn't have the internet when we were at college or school and things, and computers. That doesn't compute with them, so it doesn't really make much difference saying that to them. So it's just interesting to get into the kind of mindset of a younger person and how we can work with them, because we can learn from them.
Totally, we really can, particularly with them. Yeah, just the level of confidence and digital savvy. It's really encouraging. How important, I mean, it's obviously important, but in terms of how you feel about it, kind of encouraging women into business and encouraging women into leadership positions, how important do you feel that is, that we should focus on as a society and move forward, Lynne?
I think if you have always had a dream or an aspiration of running your business or running a business, I think it's one of those things that I'd say our platform's there to support all levels. And I think it's really important. You don't want to really, well, I would say with myself, I wouldn't want to have regrets of not trying to have a business. And it's the fear factor that stops people, or how do they pay their bills, depending on where they are in their life, if they've got a partner to support them, or if they've got 2 years finances behind them to pay everything. It really depends. But I mean, we're all for encouraging women to set up businesses, because I don't think you really want to get to a stage in your life where you think, oh, I wish I had done that. There's so many platforms out there now for support to help women in business. So I would encourage more women to set up businesses, because I think it's all the smaller individual businesses are the real growth in the economy.
Now, what do you think are the biggest barriers for women who are thinking about starting up their businesses just now?
Access to finance is always a key thing. That's always going to be a key part of it all. But just as I was saying, it's how do they support themselves while they're growing a business? Because I always use the analogy, it's like having the baby. You feed the baby until the baby can actually stand on its own 2 feet. And when it stands on its own 2 feet, the baby is a wee bit more, has become a toddler, and it's a wee bit more supported. So it's a wee bit of the fear, it's a bit about the confidence of, can they do it? And just as we said before, it's some people look at failure and they think, well, what if it fails? But you've got to keep pushing forward with it, and actually surrounding yourself is going back to build your team, go to networks, get all the support that you can, join groups, and just befriend people that you know that will help you in business. Find a mentor and find a coach as well. It's all these different things. And once I think you've got a safe group, that's what we've all said about what we do with Business Women Connections. It's a platform because women build trust and build their communities at localised level. So it's really finding your tribe, is what I would say.
Fiona, what do you think are the biggest barriers?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that as well. Yeah, definitely. I don't know, it's quite hard because I do everything on my own. There's a lot of times where most businesses start off as like a side hustle, and so you're doing it alongside work. And yeah, I mean, at the very beginning, I was working till midnight, 1 in the morning, a lot of times. And I think Lynne's right. I think having other people there to support you and help you with that is definitely the way to go. And yeah, it would have been a lot less stressful if I'd done it that way.
I know. I do. I think it's as well. It's the role of a primary caregiver obviously kind of hits women a lot just across society, and I do think that's what it takes. Such a lot of energy and time and focus and money to start your business that it's when you're torn. It's when we were first starting out. My youngest was 2 or 3, and I just remember feeling torn quite a lot, like the focus that I needed for the kids versus the focus that I needed for the business. I do feel like just that kind of just feeling of being torn in two and not having enough time, not having enough focus, not having enough kind of money for either was quite a big kind of barrier for me to overcome. And it just took time, and luckily the kind of starting up a consultancy just meant that I could be a lot more flexible in terms of when I could work and when I could focus. So there was that bit of flexibility to work when I didn't need to do other things, so evenings and weekends and everything. And I do feel like a network is, I think that can be a challenge as a woman. I think we have, I don't know, speaking for myself, I can't speak for everyone, but I do think we have a different approach to networking, or at least I do, that it takes such a lot, it takes more time, it takes quite a lot of confidence to be able to do it, which is why I think programs like yours, Lynne, are so important, because it does build that community. It lets you discuss with everybody, sort of people who know, people who understand, and people who are in the same space as you, to kind of to talk over how it is, and to just build your confidence there and meet everybody, because I suppose the network is key to business, isn't it? Is people are hugely important, particularly when it comes to like even finding funding and making all the connections that you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really key to have the connections, because as you just quite rightly said, Sarah, you're in a trusted community and a trusted group that people in the same position. They've started a business, or they're growing their business, or their business is up and running. And it's good to be able to have conversations with other people that understand how you feel and understand the challenges that you've been going through, or whether, as you say, you're a working mum, all these different things. And I think if you can actually talk to somebody about it, it actually helps, because it could be a signpost onto something else and give you food for thought.
Totally. I think it builds your confidence as well, because obviously then I don't know, for me, I think kind of networking with women in business then does help you go and network in your industry events and networking with everybody, because we need to network with everybody, and it helps build that confidence, or at least it did for me, to then get out and network a little bit more with everybody. And then in my specific industry, that you can build your relationships and build your network and build all of the connections that you need to. And so it can often be like a springboard to all of the networking that you need to do. Have you found networking key to what you're doing, Fiona?
I'm actually really bad at networking. I'm quite not antisocial, but I'm quite an independent person, so I tend to just struggle on my own for as long as I possibly can until I really need help. And then, yeah, that's really not the best way to do it. I would advise anyone starting a business to go down the networking route first, and find like-minded people that you can bounce ideas off of and stuff, because I have a couple of close friends that I bounce ideas off of, and it's really handy, but they're not always available. So yeah, it's definitely it's definitely something I'm thinking I should focus on this year, is trying to be better at putting myself out there and, you know, chatting to other people a bit more with in terms of business stuff. So,
and it depends on your space as well, because you could have this vision for a business and want to run with this business, but you might be surrounded by friends and family that have never been in business. And so that kind of, being an entrepreneur and setting up a business can be quite a lonely place. And that's why it's very key that you have a community of people and a platform or areas that you can go to, because then you can actually talk about it, because not everyone has businesses, as I say. So it's good to be able to have these conversations, because then they actually understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think I got really lucky. So my whole family is really entrepreneurial, and all my friends are the same. They've all started lots of businesses. So yeah, I kind of had that kind of initial group there. So
That's your network already.
Yeah. But I've noticed on Instagram, I quite often have massive big chats with other, you know, similar type of businesses. And it really is super helpful, because I've actually just signed on with a bookkeeper to try and take some of the pressure off. And the only reason I found her was through another sweetie shop down south that uses her. And I thought, oh, that's funny that it's, you know, it's those kind of connections that help you make other connections. So it's make your whole life easier.
Exactly, and it does make your life easier, doesn't it? It's just taking that step. We've had a really good question actually come through. So finding your tribe is obviously great advice. How do you find the right network for your business, Lynne?
I think you've just got to try various networks and have a Google in your local area. So part of our Scottish Government meetups, it was all the information, the research came back what works for women in business, and they'd researched American platforms and things, and it all came back to the same thing, that women build trust and they build networks at localized level and community. So I would say it's actually trying all the ones that are out there and just finding out what they offer, and if they've got different courses or whatever, and just finding out what one you feel more comfortable in and is more suited to your business. So our Glasgow franchise, she's now setting up individual courses for people in the professional network, people in design. So it's all these like different industries that can come together and actually can chat about the industry and what's going on. So it really depends on where you are in business and what you're looking for. And just to my best advice is actually just research what's in your area.
I think that is a good point. See what's out there, because I suppose it is, we do have more time constraints, say, a lot of us, in terms of where we can travel to and how often we can go there. So if there is things in the local area, that would be the best place to start. Fiona, you've obviously, the last few months have been amazing, and with supplying the Oscars, and then you've mentioned all the coverage that you've instantly had on that and the kind of change that's brought. What impact do you think global coverage has on kind of small businesses in Scotland?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's really, really important. I've noticed, so I kind of have always been offering international shipping and stuff, but yeah, I've definitely, since this thing has come out, I've had so many more international orders, and I think people really love the fact that it's from Scotland. Like, Scotland has a huge, it's like its own brand, you know. People really love to see Scottish owned things, and even if it's not, like, I don't have tartan all over my stuff, it's not it's not wee Highland cows, it's not Scottish, but they just really love to support Scottish businesses. So yeah, I think the more global coverage businesses in Scotland get, the best it is for everyone in Scotland, really.
Have you found any particular, because obviously with the Oscars, I would imagine that you've had quite a lot of coverage in the States, but have you found any kind of markets in particular have been kind of opening up?
Yeah, so Germany. I did an interview with a German TV station. They actually came to Campbelltown, middle of nowhere, and spent a full day with me recording and stuff. And yeah, it was on, I think it was on Euro News or something. But yeah, since then I've had loads of German orders, German customers contacting me. following me on social media and stuff. So yeah, that was one that I really did not expect, but it's been really, really big.
That's amazing.
But I expected America to go crazy, but I've had just some sort of similar level of American orders as I've always had. So the European ones have really surprised me.
Oh, really? And did they just got in touch with you, them, like the German team themselves?
Yeah, yeah. And I had a Bulgarian TV station as well. And then because I get my packaging from Bulgaria, I actually then had the Bulgarian Pulp and Paper newsletter message me to do a big interview as well. And I was just like, I did not expect Europe to be like this. So no, it's great.
I would love to. Sorry, I'd love to know, Fiona, how did it all start? Did you just get a call one day and just said, look, we're really interested in your product?
Yeah, so it was really random. It was about 2 years ago. I got a message on LinkedIn. And of course, my business is only 4.5 years old, so I'd only been going for about 2 years at this point. And one of the organisers of the gift bag messaged me and said, would you like to be involved? And I was like, this must be a scam. This cannot be legit, because when I first was designing the packaging, I kept saying, I vividly remember having this conversation with somebody where I said, oh, you know, I'm sort of designing it because I would like it, you know, the way I want it designed is so that it would look nice in the Oscars goodie bags. Like if I ever got there, I think it would look nice. I want it to look elegant, but eco-friendly. And then I kind of laughed and I was like, oh, haha, not like that's ever going to happen. So yeah, when she messaged 2 years later, I was like, what is going on? But yes, it was super random. And I said no that first year because I thought I'm too new. I'm not really prepared for this. You know, if I did get a lot of demand or a lot of publicity, I just wouldn't be prepared. So I signed on last year at the Oscars last year. So I've had a full year to plan for it, and I still feel totally unprepared. But I can't say I haven't been planning. So.
That is amazing. So from the Oscars and then, yeah, Pulp and Paper newsletters. Like
Yeah, it's just bananas.
Oh, it's amazing. You did mention the kind of the cost of cocoa going up. How would you encourage, because obviously those are challenges out with your control, and obviously we've got Brexit, we've had COVID, we've got the current economic climate. So you've already mentioned the cocoa. How would you kind of encourage other businesses to tackle those kind of challenges? Are you planning for them? Are you looking into it? Are you kind of rolling with the punches as they happen?
Yeah, I mean, this was really unexpected. So I'm on a couple of like chocolatier pages on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and nobody predicted this was going to happen. So it's not really been something I could prepare for. Yeah, you just sort of have to roll with it and be kind of happy to look out new suppliers if you need to. So I've switched my chocolate supplier and I'm just thinking about switching my packaging supplier as well, just to kind of keep it a bit more local, so that if I did need to change, I could immediately do it rather than worrying about shipping costs and everything on top of that. So.
Lynne, would you have any advice for people who are kind of facing these economic challenges?
Yeah, I think it's always just like everything, you reevaluate your suppliers, as Fiona's saying, and look at areas that you can cut back. I think everyone's, apart from passing on the price to your customer, we're all trying to cut costs and we're trying to make it better for our customers and clients. But there's a point where we do have to pass on costs because everything's gone up in price. So I think it's really just shopping about, from gas to electricity, all these different things, to how much you can actually do in-house. It's like yourself, Fiona, saying you're maybe looking at different suppliers, maybe local suppliers. I think it is just kind of looking back at your figures and seeing the areas that you can negotiate better prices.
No, I think that's I mean, it is a challenge, isn't it, just now? But I don't know. I think the one thing with business, you can't really predict what it's all going to be, can you? You do just have to roll with it sometimes.
Yep.
But we've kind of discussed how important it is to network. How important is mentorship as a kind of concept? Fiona, have you had a kind of business mentor that you've worked closely with?
No, I actually haven't. I kind of wish that I had, but I mean, this probably comes back to the whole imposter syndrome again, because when I first started the business, I was like, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's worth committing too much to it. So I didn't really search out looking for anyone right at the start. And then, you know, I persevered for so long that I'm kind of like, well, I figured out how to do it every other time, so I'll just figure out how to do it again. But I think, yeah, I think it would have been very helpful to have somebody there that you could, you know, give advice to or ask questions. I had a friend that started a business, and she was really more confident than me in the business working. So she immediately found a mentor and, you know, would go to them once a week and be like, do you think I should do this? Do you think I should do that? Like, what's the best way for me to move forward? And yeah, I think it took a lot of the weight off of her shoulders to have that person there, just that she could, you know, ask ideas of. And yeah, I think it was helpful. So it's a great idea, but again, I didn't, I haven't really gone down that route. Give myself as much stress as possible, I think.
Lynne, is mentorship something that you would encourage women to seek?
Yes, we have the mentoring match program as part of our membership. So every quarter, or sorry, every 6 times a year, it opens up for 2 weeks for the members to apply for a mentor. We have normally about 6 or 7 people that put themselves forward, men and women, offer their services to, again, to give something back, and we then match the person that's applied for a mentor to the skills of the panel or the group that we've got as mentors. It's one of the popular part of our membership because I think it makes people feel accountable as well when they actually have their meetups. It's somebody that's out with family, it's out with friends, or people that they work with in their business they can actually be quite honest with as well, and just talk openly about their drive, their fears, and they can challenge them as well. And I think a mentor is really key in trying to find someone that your values are aligned with their values and personality as well. So we've had really good feedback from our mentoring match program. I think it's really valuable for business owners.
We've just had a question through kind of looking at mentors versus coaches, because I think sometimes people can be a bit kind of reluctant to pay for a coach when your business is starting up, but mentors can sometimes be hard to come by, as like people are always busy. So how would you encourage the use of a coach, or would you encourage people to kind of seek out mentorship programs that could maybe match you up?
I think it really depends where you are in your own business and your own business journey. If you're at a stage of growth and you need a certain advice and getting the business to the next level, sometimes a coach can be more valuable. A mentor is more, I would say, somebody is there to listen to your aspirations, where you'd like the business to go, and then they set tasks and they can challenge you slightly as well. But the mentors don't actually charge out, but a business coach will. It really just depends on where you are in your own business journey and what actually you think would be beneficial for you.
How can female business owners become a mentor themselves? What kind of like, is there would you sign up to a program like yours?
Do you mean the mentors that we engage with?
So yeah, so if I've kind of a female entrepreneur wanted to become a mentor herself, is there kind of an easy way to do this, or like what kind of skills do you need?
Yeah, I mean, I've reached out to people that I've worked with over the years that have been successful in business that I think they could offer advice to business owners, and I've asked them if they would be happy to give up their time to be part of the mentoring match. So basically what we do is we make the introduction, and then the mentee has 2 sessions with the mentor, and then it's up to them how they take that relationship forward, if it's something that they want to carry on doing, because it really depends on personalities as well, and if that actually works. But we invite people that are from different industries to become mentors if they can give up the time to actually coach other women in business.
What kind of level of time would you generally need to commit, both as a mentor and as a mentee, I suppose?
Well, it's difficult because I think it really depends on the industry and their conversations, again, on the personalities, and if it's something that they've gelled. But we ask for the first meet up, and then they have like roughly 2 days commitment after that. And then that's what saying they kind of then develop if they know if it's going to be a good fit and it's going to work for their business, and then they decide if they take that relationship forward.
It is interesting with your mentors, and also kind of, yeah, the thought of, do you need a mentor, do you need a coach, do you need training, what kind of skills do you need? If you were thinking of starting a business yourself, would you recommend kind of going for training courses before you start up to try and get trained on the things that you know that you don't know, or do you think you'd be better kind of taking the plunge and getting started and then looking for the training that you need as you go? Fiona, did you have any training?
I did have a little bit of training, but it actually ended up costing me more time because it wasn't intuitive to me, so I sort of did it my own way anyway, so it sort of ended up just wasting time. But I think, again, it depends. I know some people who've done a lot of training and a lot of prep work before they've started a business, and I feel like sometimes it can be a way of delaying starting a business by like, oh, I'll just do this one other little bit of training and then I'll be good, but then, oh, maybe I need this other thing. So I don't know, sometimes it's good to have a little bit of training behind you, but I think sometimes you do just need to kind of take the plunge and go for it.
Yeah.
What would you say, Lynne?
No, I would agree. I'm probably the worst person to ask because I just went for it. I was 34, employed 6 or 7 people straight away, and set up a business, and we had a magazine out and published in 6 weeks' time since starting. So I think I would agree with Fiona. Sometimes too much information isn't a good, it can be scarier because you're too scared to press the button. I've had so many conversations recently with women of all ages talking about this just now, and I'll say just press the button, because if you don't press the button, you're never going to know what the challenges are going to be or the gaps that you need. So even with me setting up the franchise business, I'm 2 years into this now and I'm still realising there's gaps to be filled. So you don't know until you actually start something.
On the back of this, and this is a question for both of you, if you were starting up your business again, is there anything that you would do differently in hindsight? So Lynne, we'll go to you.
Anything I would do differently? I think when I was 34 and I set up, I probably wouldn't have employed as many people, but at that point, freelance positions and being self-employed wasn't really an option then. But fast forward 20 years, there's a lot of people just want to run their own businesses, but you have the commitment of somebody being self-employed and as a freelancer, but they have a commitment that you would be paying them every month, but they're still running their own business. So I think when you're starting out, it's just trying to keep your costs low. And obviously that comes with staff, but then that comes back to research, build your teams and find the people that fill in the gaps for the skills that you don't have. I don't know, but I think everything you do is a learning curve, if I'm honest. I think for me to get to this position now, I've just learned along the way and just made the mistakes. But the franchise part for me is offering a business in a box for a franchisee to run a business and run it from learning from my mistakes. So that's really what it's all about. So we do all the website, design magazines, everything in the background, and it's a management fee, so they don't have to go away and try and source people and find the suppliers, because that's a real key part of business, because it's trying to find the right people.
Yeah, and so yeah, it is finding the right people, and that goes back to a network, doesn't it? So it's that whole a big circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Fiona, is there anything differently in hindsight?
I was actually just going to say more or less the same as Lynne there. Yeah, it is funny. You really do have to just make the mistakes and just learn from them. Every time something goes wrong, I'm like, I wish there was a way you could learn these things without having to do it the wrong way first. But there really isn't. You just have to kind of know that happens. Like, you know, you are going to always look back and be like, oh, I should have done it this way, I should have done it that way. Like, yeah, there's always going to be something. going back to saying about the training, I actually kind of do now wish that I'd invested a little bit more money and done a little bit more training at the start, and then I feel like that might have helped the imposter syndrome a little bit if I wasn't just doing everything the way that I thought was best. If I had some kind of basis of what's the way it's supposed to be done, and then I could have gone from there.
What
So
training
yeah.
would you have done? Sorry, what training would you have done if you would go back? What would you train in?
I would have probably done a little bit of like business management and more fancy chocolate training as well, because so I came from a background of birthday cakes and wedding cakes, and so I already had sort of that kind of background, baking and everything, but I didn't really understand how chocolate worked and stuff, so it was a lot of trial and error at the start where I would just have complete breakdowns because I was like, it's not working today. And yeah, I would just be like, I don't know why it's not working. But yeah, if I'd done a little bit more, but then hindsight, you just never know. I might have just been wasting thousands of pounds. So
I know that's true. Hindsight is the best, isn't it? So how do you, I know that we've touched on this, Lynne, because you have your futures, but how do you inspire the next generation of both males and females for the future? So if you, in your kind of role as an employer, how are you kind of moving to inspire the people who work for you to kind of to focus on their future?
Well, for us, just as I said earlier, it's our futures group. So that's going to be really where we allow them to take the floor, for example, and be the speaker and be the MC and educate us. But it's also, we'll bring in some speakers to talk to them as well, just about how success looks for them and how they got there as well. So it's really just, I think, showing examples of people that have been in the trade and made a success of their job and their career, but not to talk at them. I think that was the key message I got.
So don't talk at them and listen. Do you have any top tips for somebody who's looking to recruit their first employee? And this can be for both of you guys. Any top tips if you're kind of making that jump and you're going to employ somebody? Do you have any like top tips or any pitfalls to avoid?
So when I first opened the brick and mortar shop, I did just employ somebody right off the bat. And I had 2 or 3 people come into the shop the first day I was open and say, oh, we're looking for a job, have you got one? Like, we're really great, we really love the business, it was really good. And so I just took one of those people because I thought they're proactive, it'll be good, and I really regret it. So it was kind of a learn, because I hadn't planned for that. I hadn't any kind of idea of how many hours I was going to offer, what I was going to do, and what I needed them to do. We were sort of both kind of learning from each other, and it wasn't really a very good employee-employer relationship. So I think, yeah, this time I've gone a year without having employees, and now I'm just about to employ someone else. And I've done a whole application forms, and I'm going to do set like individual training days so that I can get a handle on what people are going to be like in the business rather than just hoping that they're going to work. But I think treating an employee like, remembering that they have a life outside of your business, because it can be hard. You get so, like, the business is basically all I think about. So I'm so wrapped up in it, I sort of forget that they don't feel the same way. So I have to kind of remind myself that they don't care about my business as much as I do. So, they have their own life. So treating them like that is quite important as well, I think.
It is a thing, isn't it? Because I suppose when it is your own business, it's all consuming and it is all focused. How do you make sure that, like, thinking about from your employees' point of view, what would you say the benefits to them are of working for a small business?
I think they get a bit as well. Oh, sorry, Lynne's probably better to answer this because I haven't had a lot of them.
I know you, because you actually employ people. I've got a team of freelancers, so.
Yeah. Sorry, I've completely forgotten what the question was there.
So, like, because you, like, when you do employ people and it is your business, you're so focused on it, and then, like you say, they've got a life. What do you think for employees the benefit? Because I'm sure I read a stat this morning, and I'm sure it's about 40-something% of the Scottish workforce are employed by SMEs, by small and medium enterprises in Scotland. So it's a large part of our workforce, which is obviously why startups and businesses are so important to the Scottish economy. But what do you think the benefits of working for a small business are? Kind of looking at it from the employees' side, and kind of a way to encourage like getting the best talent to come and work for you.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of benefits. I mean, I've worked for Tesco's and Lidl and stuff. I've worked for massive companies, and I've worked for, you know, little mum and pop places where it's like there's only 2 or 3 other employees, and you have a lot more freedom. It's almost like a halfway house between having a big corporate job and having your own business, because, you know, you do get to be friendly with the owners and the other staff members and stuff, and there's a bit more camaraderie. Like, you know, it's a smaller team, so you kind of work better together as well. So no, I think there's a lot of advantages to working with a small business. It gives you a lot more freedom and confidence as well, I think, because you are respected and relied upon to do the job rather than just assume that you'll be fine. So,
I know, I think you do get a lot of more exposure when you work for a small company, don't you? And that is quite a big benefit. Now we've got 5 minutes left. So just for both of you guys, what are your priorities for the next 6 months, Lynne?
We are focusing, obviously it's a franchise business, but to make each franchisee have a bigger, better platform for their local community, to offer more services in there. We're introducing a podcast section as well, so that we can start interviewing local business owners as well. And hopefully for me personally is another franchise south of the border.
Yeah, over the next 6 months, I am kind of just trying to survive after all the stress. But because I've had so much like feedback from this, I'm kind of trying to grow quite a lot in the next 6 months. I have quite sizable plans and big investments to make in machinery and staff and everything. So yeah, I'm kind of, hopefully by Christmas I'll almost have doubled in size. It's kind of my plan. So yeah, I kept, before the Oscars thing, I was like, oh, I might have a fairly easy summer, and now I'm like, maybe I'll have an easy summer 2025.
One day.
Yeah.
What initiatives are in place to support women in business? Lynne, what kind of initiatives are out there that you know of to support women in business?
Well, I'm obviously biased by what we actually do, but we've got a programme for growth coming up. So we've hosted one in Edinburgh, Glasgow, now we're having one in Aberdeen. So this is at the scale up stage for businesses, because it's quite a scary point where your business is growing quite quickly and you're actually looking to take on your first employee and grow your business. So we have a day course with different speakers that can offer the different topics that to consider and about growing your business. And then the following day we have a panel, and they talk to the panel, and the panel pledge offers of support, so they can follow up all the offers of support with them. So we have that. One of those is our initiatives, but and the mentoring match. There's quite a lot on the platform that we try and offer for businesses at different stages, but not missing out the corporates, because the corporates feel that they're missed out of the whole business community, because it's always about women in business, running businesses and growing businesses. We're very aware of the corporate world as well.
Oh, brilliant. And when's your next event, Lynne?
Well, there's events on today, both in Edinburgh and Aberdeen and in Glasgow, but our next programme for growth Aberdeen is the 24th of April, but we've got an event in Glasgow on the 23rd about building your brand. So we've got 2 really great businesses that have started a brand from scratch and making your brand more visible, and bringing in them as speakers and how they've grown their business, and also an SEO specialist, because it's not about just building a pretty website, it's about how you actually, because that's your shop window.
I know.
How you make your shop window visible to the rest of the world. So we've so it's a really good programme if you're at that stage about trying to grow a business and make your brand visible. So that's in Glasgow.
And where can we buy your chocolates, Fiona?
Yeah, so I have a website, so it's fetchachocolates.com, and if you're ever in Campbelltown, have a shop. But yeah, it's a little bit out of the way. But yeah, my brother keeps convincing me to move to Glasgow. He lives in the south side, and he's like, "You should open a shop up here." So.
So handy. Oh, well, we've covered so much today. We really have. It's been, I mean, it's such an important topic, isn't it? It's just, it feels like there's just such a growth potential to have women in business in Scotland, because it is a place where business can thrive. And like we've said, Scotland, kind of compared to other places, does have a lot of support. I know we've got a lot of support from Business Gateway, and there's lots of Scottish Government initiatives, particularly after the Pathways report. So it does feel like Scotland is such a kind of a rich, fertile ground for any kinds of business. And yeah, I think we all need to encourage kind of women to go out there, to the women who can, to just, if that's what you want to do it and not regret. And we have touched on the importance of kind of networking and the importance of kind of feeling your confidence and just expecting the unexpected and rolling with the punches. So I think it has been a really interesting chat with you guys today. It's just, I think we've covered so many good points. And I just want to say a big, huge thanks to you both for taking the time to share your expertise with all of us. It's been really interesting. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
And thank you so much to everyone who joined us this morning. That's brilliant. And a recording of the session will be available. So that'll all get shared with everyone afterwards. But yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.